Hi, this is Dr. Joe with Bits and Pieces Conversations That Matter from Cards for Bearing the Unbearable. This is a spirituality and being card, and the question is to share a time when you felt courageous in grief. One particular time I felt courageous in grief, and a lot of the times that I have felt courageous were related to the ways that other people were reacting to my grief and me sort of fist in the air reclaiming my grief. So one particular time someone said something to me about my grief and intimated that I should be glad that it was my youngest child who died instead of my oldest child who died. And I heard that many, many times. Well, aren't you glad that it was the baby instead of, the 8-year-old? Or aren't you glad it was the baby instead of the 10-year-old? And that just wasn't my truth. I don't, for me, I don't love my children based on how many years I've had with them. I love them all. And so this person said this to me, and it was the very first time I responded to something like this. And my response back to her was, I love all my children the same, and I would grieve for all of them the same. And she had several children, and she just looked at me and she realized not only the cruelty of what she had said, but also the ignorance of what she had said. Because, she was holding her 8-month-old baby in her arms. So I'm going to guess she didn't love her 8-month-old baby 5 years less than her 5-year-old. And so I felt really courageous in that moment, and I felt like I had reclaimed. We have another conversation that matter about this, about reclaiming our grief. And that was a moment when I really felt like I had reclaimed my grief and set a boundary. Like you don't really get to say that to me. If that's your experience, that's okay, but you don't get to say that to me. So what about you? Has there been a time when you felt courageous in your grief, and are you willing to share about that moment? I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for joining Conversations That Matter. This is Dr. Joe with Bits and Pieces.